Okay, so thank you very much, and let's get this going. So first of all, my name is Javier Pereda. My pronouns are he, him, or él. I'm an heterosexual male, Mexican. I'm an immigrant. I'm a Latinx. I'm around my 40s. I have a mohawk, which I'm actually going bald, and I come from a background of rural rural and city-based upbringing from my parents. I'm also a rock climber. So this presentation, I think the key is that I'm presenting for both sides of my jobs, which are in the university. I'm a senior lecturer in design. I'm a co-investigator of the Unlocking the Colonial Archive, and I'm the academic representative of the School of Art and Design for decolonizing the curriculum, as well as I'm the senior researcher for Towards the National Collection. So first of all, the key thing what I'm going to be showcasing very briefly is what the problems of representing, representation within socio-technical systems. So the key thing what a socio-technical system is basically this combination of human factors and technical factors as computational analysis combined in a single space. So every time everything that I'm talking about is related of the human factors as well as the computational factors. So for example, one of the problems that we have is that we use computational tools to represent the world, and these are called ontologies or data models, and that allows the computer to actually understand and think as a human, um, as the conceptualization of the world. So imagine if you had an alien and you had to explain what a pencil is, someone who doesn't even know what wood or lead is, you have to explain it somehow. So you have to provide every single bit of explanation. The problem that we have is usually these computational tools have been developed usually by white male groups, usually in the global north. And now we have a problem, also the Anglocentric problem. So how do we fix this? So this is also based a lot on a presentation from ICOM, where we base everything on the Museum Integrado, where we're meant to represent knowledge that represent the communities where the data is coming from. So this relates to the idea that this data is the people that we are talking about. It's not just data that exists on the outside. So, towards our national collection, we have 8 foundation projects, 5 discovery projects, commission research, COVID projects, where we are exploring all the different challenges. We employ also commission research. We have 22 million pounds, well, 19 million pounds, 22 million euros, where we're exploring how to generate this system for the country. So this is a major government investment. What I have isolated the groups is basically the problems that we have is knowledge automation. So the knowledge that is generated by the computer, place, so location and spatial systems, knowledge co-creation. So how do we embed the knowledge from the communities, and also embedding that decolonial practice and decolonial knowledge from different parts of the world within a computational system that eventually fits within the UK system. So as an example, maps, place. Usually, most of the spatial technologies that we use to analyze the world currently is based on Western and European perspectives. So this gives us very powerful tools, but it doesn't have the ability to understand indigenous systems or knowledges from the global South. And I will expand this with this example. So, for example, in the Unlocking the Colonial Archive, we work with this kind of pictorial narratives, which you can call them maps, but they doesn't fit within the narrative of European systems. So what happens with this kind of visual content is that we have multiple stories. And if you see me on the screen, I have this kind of networks. When you tell stories, many stories happening at the same time. So for example, what you see here on the left side, we have the infraworld. So we have not only the world on the map, but we have also the underworld and the upper world happening at the same time. So the cosmovision of different indigenous groups, there's no way that this is embedded within the system, because the current technologies that we have are not ready to take this kind of information or the understanding of the world. And we're not even talking about the understanding of the people, but just the tool themselves do not work to take this kind of knowledge for computational analysis. So remember, keep in mind that we are working with social machines. So I'm talking about social machines all the time, that merge of technology and the human factors. So if we deconstruct further, what we have here is the is based on a narrative of the sun going into the underworld, and when the sun falls, traveling towards the underworld, the world shakes. What we mean by world shakes is actually an earthquake. So by deconstructing the narratives or maps or the writings, we can actually deconstruct. So what this story is telling is happening at the same time, many narratives around. So there was a solar eclipse, but actually that's a depiction of an omen, which means something bad happened. So even the data itself, the pictorial data, is not just as a single narrative as we are used to reading in normal paragraphs or statements in Latin base or in Western base writings. So there's a depiction of Olin, which means movement, and Tlali, which means land. So they also have different levels of measuring even earthquakes. So basically, this is telling a story or a narrative that is happening at the same time through and the single space is explaining the world was traveling to the underworld, and during that period 2,000 warriors died, and it was thought that they died in a river, but the important thing is also the depiction of time and space. So in here we have a numerical date, which is the way we used to measure time, but in here what we have is 2 Cain. So 2 Cain is also not only a representation of a number, but it's a compilation of events that happen. So if you give 2021 and the COVID pandemic a perception, a life, or kind of an entity, how will it look? So, for example, in Mexico, we have earthquakes very regularly. So when we think of the 1986 earthquake or this current earthquake of the 19th of September, we have this kind of repetitive cyclic systems where the Aztec, or in this case, the indigenous Mexica writings enable to have this kind of ideology, thinking, emotions, cosmovision, and everything within a writing system that is depicted within a pictorial narrative that we can call a map. So this is one of the key problems that we have. Current information systems do not have the capability of using non-Western cosmovision and knowledges. So this relates to everything has been mentioning before. So we have a problem. So how do we solve this? The coloniality, for example, seeks to make visible or open up all these different knowledges from around the world. Okay, so this is not only about representation, this is about embedding the knowledges and the cosmovisions of the different peoples into our current systems. Okay, so how do we do this? So Unlocking the Colonial Archive is based on a previous project called Digging into Early Colonial Mexico, where the gazetteers, does anyone have any empty screens? Let me know. So the model, or what happened in the early colonial Mexico project is usually you scan a document from museums or any kind of archive, and then you perform this kind of OCR into the calligraphy. But then, of course, OCR doesn't take this kind of writings. And what happened then is they did some artificial intelligence analysis using natural language processing to actually contextualize what the information contained. Because if you recall, the information that we are analyzing combines information from European sources, as well as the one from the Tlacuilos and Cuitlacuilas, which is the writers of the indigenous groups. So after performing the analysis, then there was a further analysis to then annotate. So remember, we have to come back and let the computer understand what the information means. So it gave the contextualization of automation of the information, and then the current package that I'm working on is then using artificial intelligence to import all this data, import the data into the information system. So just to finalize, this probably will take a little bit to load, but what I have done is then perform some computer vision analysis using artificial intelligence to automate the ingest. So that's a codex, that's an actual physical codex where I'm using a camera that is detecting automatically what kind of object and item it is, so it can be ingested into the system and then pulled back into the annotation system that have been previously developed to automate that import or that ingest of data into the main system. Okay, so thank you very much.